Hey, Amanda! Oh my goodness! Hello! It's so good to see you. Alrighty. I'm going to swap to... What do we have? What do we have DPS-wise?
I'll swap to Merc, I guess.
You're gonna Merc? Okay. So on the Republic side, just by the way, you actually learn the fate of the Dreadmasters a little bit more in depth. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I highly recommend trying to get through the Republic Oricon storyline if you can. It's very, very interesting. It's a lot more in depth than the Empire side. Kagi-wagi.
How much
Yeah.
conquest do you get for completing the whole lot?
I got full conquest and I hadn't played on this character at all.
Ooh, I should swap tunes then.
Yes, you should. It's going well. Thank you so very much for asking. All right, so we're swapping characters a little bit. We're not going to yeet around as much as we did in story mode.
That's a lie.
That's toxic.
The expert.
I'm gonna swap really quickly. Okay, bye. Oh, what class should I play tonight? What class should I play? What do you think, guys? Not playing Marauder. I have no idea how to play Marauder. That's not happening. You know what? I'm gonna play... Okay, we can play Sork. We'll play Sork. Hello, Master Tora. How are you doing today? Get to brass tacks. So, all right, we're gonna slow down a little bit here. Play Assassin. I might play Assassin. Assassin's fun. I need to grab a conquest thingy-majig. So, we're going to talk a lot more. We're going to slow down a lot now here in hard mode. We're going to really talk about all of the different mechanics, how the bosses differ from story mode. Melee Nightmare Tyrans. Probably not a good idea.
If you've never done all melee Nim Tyrants, you don't know how to live.
I think I know how to live just fine, actually. Especially as a ranged DPS. Can we do these solo? No. There's a heat wave in Toronto. That feels bad. That's awful. Alrighty.
It's probably like 75 degrees.
I know, right? It's like 104 here or something right now.
Without humidity.
Without humidity, yeah. Though we're in a heat wave. Yes, functioning AC is important. Castiana, I'm actually going to refer you to Audria, who is the Sin Shadow expert and just an amazing assassin. So, but yes, we'll make sure it happens. Hi, Chips. Manda, I am doing well. Thank you so very much for asking. Let me just turn down. Let me turn down the. I got you. I got you.
Hit you?
I got you. Fishup, you were lead. Can you reset phase?
We're already in.
Oh, you're already in. Oh, okay. Okay. Here, I'll send other summon then.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Microwaved
Just gotta-
quesadillas. Well, that's good. Amanda, how are you doing? How is Overwatch and such treating you? The point of no return has been passed. I feel these feels. Let me just check my talents. Oh, yikes. I am in... I'm in Warlord's talents. Feels bad. Good. Good, Amanda. Good. Alright, so the trash is definitely the same here. Okay, now we've introduced Whirlwind, which is what we were talking about in story mode. You just need to chain stun them, really, is what we do. Or CC them. As you can see, this one's been double CC'd for twice the effectiveness. Slightly drunken.
That's what you want to call it.
Yeah. Hey, Chips, you know what? It's food, right? And it was good, so that's really what matters. Oh! Oh, man, good stun on that interrogator.
You act like I don't know what I'm doing.
Do you? I didn't know that. Why are you even here in the first place?
I don't know. Somebody unCC'd that one.
On purpose.
On
I
purpose.
knew we weren't gonna
This
get to
is
see off on this one.
This is what it looks like when you
breaker.
get Whirlwind. It's just the same as any Inquisitor's Whirlwind. It lasts a little bit longer. I don't recommend breaking it unless you're in the middle of the red circle and are about to die. Then I recommend breaking it and running away. Hey, Ducky.
Can you imagine if the devs go back and add tacticals to like the whirlwinds, the interrogators? Like every time someone dies, they get to refresh their whirlwind on someone.
Oh my. That's getting some WoW diminishing returns on chain CCs over here. So once again, we're just going to clear out all of the trash just because honestly, it's a lot easier just to get rid of it all up front. Especially if you're progressing. If you're progressing on a boss, it's easier to clear out the trash leading up to it, so that way you don't have to worry about trying to evade or whatever. It's just easier to get rid of it up front.
Or if one of your tanks is normally 10 minutes AFK during this.
That's true. That too.
We all
Now
know
what
that.
female tank would do that?
I don't know.
That's toxic.
We love elves.
We love elves. We love elves dearly. Els is actually going to the cantina tonight, and I am super jelly.
You're super jelly?
I'm
Grape
super jelly.
Or, grape or strawberry?
I would
That's
prefer
something I'm
raspberry.
jealous of Americans for. We don't get those in Canada.
Oh, you're a Canadian? Thank you very
Absolutely.
much for trialing. We'll get back to you.
Wow. Now that's toxic.
Thank you, Amanda. I actually moved, so I'm in a different apartment unit right now. All right, let's talk Bestia. So it's not just the raffle stomp that it is in story mode. We're gonna go through the we're gonna talk healers first, then we'll move to DPS, and then lastly we'll finish with tanks. So Tom, talk to me a little bit about healing Dreadmaster Bestia, if you want.
Alright, in hard mode, 2 monsters come out. The tanks normally split them apart. Normally, the DPS are on one and the other. It's healing it is just making sure the tanks survive. Really. As a healer, you're gonna grab like almost all the aggro of the little ads, so you need to position yourself by a tank for AoE taunt. That way, all the larvae are pulled off you. If you don't, your day is going to be a little hectic.
Any other tips that you would like to talk about?
It's healing. This is not so strange from like story mode. It's basically just maintaining the tanks. It's knowing who your melee DPS are, so you can drop AoEs onto them. So if you drop your AoEs on like the melee DPS, you'll most likely hit the tank. You'll hit like the melee DPS, the majority of them.
Good job.
And
I guess we're going.
We're going. That was an accidental pull, but Bishop, talk to me about tanking Bestia.
Stack. That's it.
Tentacle.
Okay, so in hard mode, there is a new ad that shows up called the Dread Tentacle. Your tanks need to stack the monster that's not being just actively held. So you're gonna break monsters off one by one, so they're not overwhelming the tank. They're not overwhelming the tanks. So the tanks that are closest to the tentacle will bring their monster over to the tentacle. You'll need to make sure that it's interrupted before you get there, because otherwise it does a cast that will do a lot of damage. That will do a lot of damage to a specific player that calls out. So as you can see, it's already starting to be a little bit more hectic than story mode. There's only 2 monsters still. The real chaos comes in Nightmare. So here's the Dread Tentacle. It's going to aggro whoever is closest to it. That's why you definitely want to tank on it as soon as possible. Ranged and melee DPS aren't really that different, but Kagi, talk to me a little bit about melee DPSing here in Bestia.
Ooh, this is a really fun one for melee DPS, especially Juggernaut, since if you're playing Vengeance, you're going to be dot spreading a lot. So there's a lot of stacking from ads for monsters on top of tentacles, and so you're going to be DPSing the monster, and you're going to be positioning yourself so that you're going to be dot spreading onto the tentacle, and hopefully some larva if the healers are able to bring it in, or ranged are able to bring it in to dot spread onto those. It's really very simple. You just want to make sure that you're not standing inside of the yellow circles as well. If you do get a red circle as a Juggernaut or as a Marauder, you can position yourself against the wall and kind of stand still. And once it's about to fall off, you can go ahead and mad dash it and negate all the damage it would do to you normally. If you do not have your mad dash, you can use your Endure Pain and Threatening Scream for the reduced damage, AoE reduced damage from it.
So lots of dot spreading opportunities for melee DPS and ranged DPS, particularly snipers and IO mercs. As a ranged DPS, I'm gonna stand back here towards the back. I'm gonna stand as far away from the boss as I can.
So we should just hardcore this here.
Yeah, that's fine. I like to stand on the throne over here as a ranged DPS. I just avoid the red circles. I cleave when I can. So when I do get the red circle here as a sniper, usually I will just entrench and shield probe if I need to. You can also roll it, roll the seed if you have to, which is a lot of fun. But honestly, it's just a lot of it's just an ad management fight. It's really not as hard as like Nightmare is. It's actually a very easy fight here in hard mode, which is strange to say. The tank that is not actively tanking Bestia does need to be aware of the tentacles, and will take the tentacles in the lone monster. We're currently in burn phase, so burn phase starts at around 20%, I would say, here in hard mode. In Nightmare, it's going to be a little bit different. Well, that was that. Okay.
It's really not. The way it is you need to gauge your DPS in the group. So in like hard mode, because she doesn't summon a monster till 50, you need to decide how good and how much your tanks can handle. So if your tanks can handle a monster or two, you could just start straight burning from 50%, assuming your DPS isn't garbage either. If your DPS is going to struggle or your tanks aren't comfortable with it, you want to kill maybe 1 or 2 monsters sub 50% before you start burning. So it's up to you to decide, which method you want to use. And this one, obviously, we decided we were just going to straight burn because we had the DPS, because it wasn't hard to tank.
Hi, Marcus. Yeah. So, do you have any tips for Bestia that you would like to talk about for your tanks while we are getting over to Tyrans?
Coordination's really it. You just gotta communicate. I can take this monster, I'll hold this one away, bring it in, you can get a swap on Bestia, So what she does is probably pretty big, we should talk about it. She has a thing called Dread Strike. And at the end of Dread Strike, usually, if it's not decent, she'll do this thing. It looks like Blade Storm on a Jedi Knight. And that ability will give you a stacking debuff. That stacking debuff, as most do in this game, will increase the damage you take from her to the point where if you're going too high, you're probably going to get one shot. The true mechanic of it is when you get those stacking debuffs, you need to start looking into a tank swap. And if you have a monster up, that's where you have to coordinate. Okay, let's swap in 3, 2, 1. One of you takes a monster, one takes Bestia, because Bestia will charge after the tank who she's on. So if your tank is slip a swap, then she jumps over to where he is with the other monster, and it gets kind of messy. In that case, because we had an assassin tank, because of their shroud, they're able to resist the debuff and therefore hold Bestia for 3 cycles of the debuff. Jugs can mad dash it as well to guarantee a cheese for one. So essentially that's it though. You need to work, okay, hey, I'm going to get these stacking debuffs. I'm not going to be able to shroud this next one. We're going to have to swap. Or you can have your off tank take the debuff so that the tank, in this case Ascent, could go right back to it. Every 4th one they would need cheesed or taken by somebody else in that case.
So it's really, really important to coordinate as tanks on really important to coordinate as a team in Bestia. Healers also need to be coordinating with each other. Hey, I can't see this one. You can get line of sighted by the throne in Bestia, so you definitely need to make sure your healers know where you are. Healers need to make sure that, like, hey, I can't see this I can't see this player. I can't see this player. And then DPS, you just need to, honestly, DPS just need to make sure that they're not tunneling. And honestly, Bestia is really just a lot of ads and just coordination. So Bestia really doesn't have a huge difference from story mode to hard mode. But now we're at Tyrans, which has a huge difference. And as you can already see, the platforms are completely different. It is a completely different puzzle here in hard mode, and it will be even more different in Nightmare. So, in hard mode, we are actually the ranged and healers are going to start where I'm standing right now, which is going to be here. So the ranged and healers are going to be starting on this one, and we're actually going to delete tiles this way. We're going to get rid of these tiles first, and we're going to leave the middle tiles up. Bubble stun, yes, bubble stun. We're going to leave the middle tiles open, and we're going to get rid of the back tiles first. So, and then the melee and the tanks will take care of these tiles here. So they're going to delete these 4 tiles first, starting with this tile here. One of these 2 tiles back here. And then after these 4 tiles have been deleted, they're actually going to completely swap, flip the boss over, and start deleting these tiles here. It's very, very important to make sure that we do not delete these middle tiles. When we swap sides, the ranged and healers will start flopping over as well, and we'll move over to this side. So the ranged and healers are focused on here on the back ones, and the melee will take the front ones. So the melee will take this tile, this tile, this tile, and that tile. And then the ranged and the healers will go further back 1 and start there. What you will do is you will have, we have 2 ranged and 2 melee DPS, which is an excellent composition. So we're going to have 1 healer and 1 ranged DPS here. And then the other ranged and the other DPS, or the other healer, are going to be on this one. So you're going to coordinate taking these back tiles together. So that way you evenly take out these tiles, so that way we're not lopsided one or the other. Bishop, talk to me a little bit about Tyrans, how to deal with simplifications, how to deal with Thundering Blasts.
Okay. Thundering Blast is a casted cleave, so face it away from everybody, GG. For simplification, it's with tanks we have a bit of a luxury. We get the benefit of knowing when it's going to come on us, because it starts with a 3-second, goes on whoever has aggro of him, which should be tanks. So because of that, we're able to get kind of a 3-second head start to go where we want to drop our simplification. So we can do that to primarily set the tone for how we're going to go, or if something gets messed up in terms of melee or somebody else, we can cover for it because we can see those 3 seconds, use hydros, use force speed, and go to where we need to. But the big thing we like to do as tanks is give melee DPS room to work. So we like to delete ones. We like to leave them with options. So in hard mode, I know that I would like to always have a couple behind me, so I can delete that one. Melee can stand where they're, they don't have to worry about moving yet. Um, uh, Pretty much like that's it. You kind of control where it's gonna go. So if you decide, hey, I want to send Pier, we got a missed tile over there, or that's a good opportunity to take one, then you'll do that. It's also whoever has simplification, the entire red circle cannot generate any threat on Tyrant, so it's a forced tank swap. Otherwise, in the worst case scenario is main tank gets simplification, Tyrants gets aggro to a ranged DPS and starts teleporting all over the place. So you want to make sure that you taunt during the simplification cast if you're the tank who didn't currently have him before simplification.
So yeah, so simplification, if it does go off on a ranged DPS, Tyrans will start teleporting around the map. Tiles can
No,
start getting
what?
what?
That has nothing to do with it. No, it's
No.
if your co-tank doesn't taunt during
Right,
simplification.
I'm just saying Tyrants can get aggroed onto a ranged, and if you're not aggroed, if you get his aggro and you're not currently within like a 5-meter radius of him, he will start teleporting everywhere to that player. So definitely make sure that your tanks are coordinating when they need to swap, especially if you're progressing on this fight. Kagi,
Swap is simplification.
yeah,
Plain and
swap is
simple.
simplifications, plain and simple. What, Kagi? What's up? Poke, poke. Oh. Tom, talk to me a little bit about healing hard mode Tyrans.
Okay. Basically, the biggest thing is you can't cleanse the affliction dot. It's one of the biggest changes between story mode and hard. So the best thing, like as a merc, as a sork, as an operative, like operative, you can put both your probes on that person. Sorks should shield them. Mercs, you can throw your culto shell on them. Mercs actually benefit the most because it's not ever a wasted heal. Every time affliction ticks, the shell will tick and heal, and basically mitigate some of the damage. But again, it's like Thundering Blast hits a lot more. Shock, which normally comes after Thundering Blast, hits for a bit more. So it's a lot more healing the tank. The group, if they decide to stand like in Thundering Blast, that can be the worst thing in the world. In Nim, sometimes it's like the most horrible thing. Like everything will be fine, and then you're on the back wall and you put Infernos on the wall, and like the melee don't go to the right place and just get cleaved by Thundering Blast. So it's just more outgoing damage. I don't know if there's more Infernos than in story mode.
I think there's 4 that goes on.
So
there's a little bit more, but not as much as Nightmare.
Yeah. So,
Infernos actually hit harder in
Yeah.
hard mode than they do in Nightmare, which is interesting. And you don't have to drop down after simplification.
Yeah, that's them.
Yeah.
But all in all, it's just like the tanks are going to be taking more damage. If your tanks don't know what DCDs to pop for Thundering Blast, like PTs drop Oil Slick and Explosive Fuel, Sin's Force Jugs, I think it's mainly using the Force Screen Absorption thing. Or Saber Ward, yeah, one of the two. I don't know. I don't jug tank. That's Bishop's area. But it's just if the tank doesn't use a DCD for Thundering Blast, it's like they're taking a bunch to the face. So you have to heal through it.
All right. Well, thank you so very much for that. Kagi, talk to me a little bit about being melee on Tyrans.
It sucks.
How so?
Well, there's Thundering Blast is got a really wide cleave area, so you have to make sure you're standing behind the boss at all times. Additionally, you're looking out for infernos, which everybody does, but I mean, it's just really hard. It's really annoying to look for that. You're going to make sure you're not standing in them. Let's see. And then simplification. We don't know when we're going to be getting simplification, and we have to know where we're dropping them. Usually, you're going to end up using a mad dash to get to the square that you want it to disappear. And then you're going to be trying to get back to the boss and getting behind the boss again and making sure that you're just not getting hit. It's just a lot of damage. It's a lot to look at. If the previous fight was really fun for Jugs in Melee, this fight is not so much.
Well, thank you very much for that. Biggest thing about being melee on Tyrants is just making sure we don't get, you guys don't get hit by Thundering Blast or standing in front of the cleaves. Just really making sure positioning, not roasting the tank with your Infernos. Just really, really important as a melee DPS to know where you're standing at all times.
You need to always be looking where you're going to place your simp if you get it. You need to always have a plan to drop the simplification. Worst thing you can do is cut off what the tanks are trying to do. Next worst thing you could do is drop the tile we're standing on for no reason. If you have one behind you, you can take, because then we're forced to move him up, and it gets he's a buggy boss. There's no line. So that could lead to some issues. You need to be looking ahead, thinking ahead. Okay, if I get simplification, this is what I need to do. If I get Inferno, I want to place it here so that I can keep a path open for me to go back and play simplification. Play your corners. It's always a pretty decent idea to stay directly across from your tank, because they're usually, if they're controlling it, then you can adjust to that and you'll be set. Because if we're keeping him on one corner, you're on the other one, then we both rotate and you have a path back, we have a path forward. And I didn't talk about this, Tom brought it up though, so that reminded me. So for tank, our rotation for Thundering Blast, there are 4 Thundering Blasts per cycle of simplification each time you have it. PTs and Sins, their cooldowns line up nicely. We can have something. I like to pop. Sins can have 4-speed Shroud and Overcharge, or whichever, for every Thundering Blast. Doesn't matter. PTs and Jugs, we have a cooldown cycle. And I like to start using those cooldowns for the last 2 Thundering Blasts. The first 2, I'll just, Heat Blast, Force Screen, whatever, Endure Pain to just cushion it a little bit. But for the last 2, which are going to come after Inferno, Energy Shield or Explosive Fuel, an Oil Slick, or Shield Adrenal, I like to use those because we start having to worry about more raid damage going out towards the Inferno and the next 2 after Inferno, or people can get ranged and messed up into if Infernos are placed incorrect. So having those cooldowns running just cushion it a little bit for you and for your healers. So I'm going to be using like Energy Shield for the second 2 Thundering Blasts that I take. And then for the next time I have Tyrans, I'll be using Explosive Fuel and Oil Slick. And then the next time I have him, I'll have Energy Shield back. So.
Well, thank you so very much for that. And just quickly, if you do fall through the tiles and through the platforms, there is this holocron here. It's just called the Dread Transposer. You just click it. There's a quick little channel, and then you get ported immediately back up. There is a debuff you get called Out of the Game, and it's a 10-minute debuff. You won't generate any aggro unless you're the only person standing, and then absolutely. But it also means that you can't hit him, you can't heal, and it is a mechanic that actually has relevancy in Nightmare. So, but for ranged DPS, it's actually really easy for ranged, in all honesty. The biggest thing for us ranged is just making sure that we delete the appropriate tiles. We don't move, we don't cut ourselves or the healers off, especially if we're, cutting off the healers from the tanks is a very bad thing. You want to make sure that you place your Infernos in a way that, so like we place them here on the corners, and a Nightmare will show you why we do that. But we place Infernos on the corners because that way it's easier for us to reach the boss, especially if we were like a Merc or a Lightning Sork. or not a lightning sork, sorry, madness sork, or if you don't have that 35-meter range like lightning sorks and snipers do. It's just, this is a way for us to make sure that we're not, you know, not being able to GPS the boss at the same time. But really, for range, we have to make sure that we don't cut the healers off in the tanks. That is our biggest responsibility. And that when we get a simplification, we delete the tile that's actually kind of like the furthest. So we're going to try and delete the furthest ones, so that way we have more tiles for the melee and the melee and the tanks. So that way, you know, Tyrans isn't bouncing all over the place. Alrighty then, does anybody have anything else they would like to add before we pull? Now that Blinks hasn't face pulled for us today. If not, we're gonna go ahead and ready check. You know the Muffin Man, Coggy Woggy? Okay. So myself and Nox will be over here. It's why I keep pulling you, you little dork. So we're gonna have 2 over here. We're going to have myself and Nox over here, and then we're going to have the other healer and the other DPS on the opposing side. All right, whenever the tanks are ready.
But
3, 2, 1.
I can't DPS from there.
Also,
It's
add
good to do
raid.
a free taunt opener here so you don't lose aggro and have the first sim go wild.
So what is a 3 taunt rotation?
Single taunt, AoE taunt, single taunt.
Okay.
Once each one ends is when you do the next.
So I'm going to get the
your,
first range simplification. I'm going to delete this tile, which I shouldn't have. We're going to
using
delete
your rocket punch, wither, and force scream to reduce the cool of set or your single taunt is good, so you don't have an awkward gap between your AoE taunt and your second single taunt.
There's the Inferno placement. I waited until the Inferno was dropped, and then I immediately moved away from it. Faz, make sure that we take out the back ones underneath the throne next.
Yep.
Infernos are out. So I got Inferno again. I'm going to place it back here.
Guess I'm just gonna place mine there.
You're just going to place yours there. It's okay. But typically we want to stack the Infernos so we're not... it's really more important in Nightmare due to the fact that we don't have a lot of movement around in the Nightmare difficulty. So take out the one underneath the throne. So we're taking out the one underneath the throne. You don't need to drop down in Nightmare or in Hardmode. So we're going to back up. We're going to put Infernos on the corners. You can flip whenever. Wow, you guys have not gotten any Sims. That's crazy.
That is toxic.
It almost got me killed, but it was worth it.
Faz and I have gotten like all of the Sims.
You also, if you do plan on moving him, you want to do it after a Thundering Blast goes off. He may be pretty unresponsive, and wait till he does his Thundering Blast to move.
Yeah, waiting until Thundering Blast is a good idea. And then when you actually do the tanks, or do the flop over here on hard mode, it can be very difficult to do. You know, Tyrans might go all over the place. You know, so just definitely be very careful when you are turning him around. Alright, Inferno's on the corners. You just beat this for the first time last week? Well, congratulations! That's awesome! Easy. By the way, if you do have an Inferno that pops up before, or like after he dies, it will kill you, so please don't stand in it. Because Tyrans is a troll.
I cannot say.
No, it's okay. Thank you so very much for for helping us out today, Swartz. It was good to have you.
Yeah, no problem. Is Groovy available?
I am working on waking him up. It is Darth Tyrans. Well, actually, it's Dreadmaster Tyrans. The Dreadmasters are special, and they have their own titles.
Just think of the lore.
Can you get cool items doing these runs? Absolutely. So you get the title Dreadmaster after the end if you defeat the entire instance in Nightmare under an hour. Nightmare Council also drops the Dread Enhanced Rancor, which is a really cool mount. And then, yeah, there you go, the Dread Enhanced Rancor.
Rancor boy.
All right, so Calphayus. Big changes on Calphayus. Let's talk about healing. Tom, talk to me a little bit about healing Calphayus.
Okay, so the initial phases where we're in this room are not as heal intensive as the individual phases. Unlike story mode, well, we did story mode proper mechanics, but unlike normal story mode where everyone goes left and then split phases, the healers have to split phases all the time. So there's a lot of individual responsibility for the healers for the phase that you're going to. In my opinion, the hardest phase to heal, hard mode and Nim while learning this fight is right side first phase. Right side first phase is where there's a lot of outgoing like AoE DPA like DTPS to the group, and you have to also help kill the ad if your DPS isn't up to snuff. But of course, my DPS are wonderful people and they know their rotations, so shouldn't be an issue. But if your DPS is low, you'll have to help DPS the corruptor ad, or is it a defiler? Yeah,
Defiler. Yeah, Defiler.
Yeah. Anyways, so it's just really, really heal intensive for the first phase. In hard mode, second phase left side is easy to heal because the crystals don't reflect damage. So it's basically just making sure the tank doesn't die to Calphy. First phase, the left side is basically the same as story mode. It's just a bit more damage to the crystal. You have to make sure the crystal, stays alive through all the ads. You can help with like AoE DPS if you have the chance to. There's nothing really too special about it. Second phase, right side is easy to heal. And when I say easy, it's like comparatively to just like how many times you've done this fight. If you're brand new to it, it's going to be maybe a little bit overwhelming, but it's definitely something that isn't beyond anyone's skill level. But second phase, right side, it's basically just pushing the boss until he jumps to a crystal, waiting for the other side to kill the crystal, and then going back to DPSing. Healers should off DPS as much as possible during that phase, unless the left hand side has called for like a pause, so they can get all the crystals evened out. Other than that, third phase. There is a third phase in hard mode, isn't there?
Yes, there is.
There's no root ad.
No.
Though.
No Rudad and no Guardian.
Okay, so third phase, it's basically everyone goes into one portal, one person goes into the other portal, drops the dread crystal holocron on Calphayus' head, and I mean that's just basically making sure your tank doesn't die while kiting Calphayus. Little things for individually for each healer. It's in my opinion, operatives and mercs have a better chance at right side. And not that Sork doesn't have a great amount of AoE heals. It's just operatives rotation of keeping 4 probes on 4 people and then doing off DPS while doing group heals is OP for right side first phase, in my opinion. Merc with Culto Shells, the Culto Shells are always going to be positive. There's always going to be something that's going to tick. But yeah, if I was to say, if your healer comp is Sork operative, send the operative right, send the Sork left. If it's Merc Sork, send the Merc right, Sork left. If you're double Sork, well, you're double Sork. If you're Merc operative, I would send the Merc left and the operative right. But that's just my personal preference as a healer main. I'd rather the operative goes left because they have 3 cleanses. They have their stealth out cleanse, their evasion cleanse, and their normal cleanse.
You mean right side first, correct?
Yeah, right side first. So in the grand scheme of things, it's if you send a sniper, an assassin tank, and one other class that can cleanse, the operative can always get the sniper in itself.
Well, thank you so very much for that. Kagi, talk to me a little bit about being a melee DPS here on Calphayus.
I'm gonna head out. I'll see you guys
Bye,
later.
Swartz. Thank you so very much for
Later,
helping
love.
us out
See
today.
you later, Swartz.
No problem.
So being melee, again, isn't the most fun on this fight until later. When we open up here, you could stand away from the group, as I am. If you wanted to try to leap in to get some rage, I will probably be just standing with the group so that I can just start with a smash and my regular opener. So you don't get the red circles. The big thing is you definitely want to have your self-cleanse for your Endure Pain. So it's in your heroic called Consuming Rage. You definitely want to have that utility taken, because if you are on the left or the right side first, as I am, and you are not able to kill the ad fast enough and Affliction gets off, it'll be easiest for the group over there if you self-cleanse yourself. So you definitely want to have that utility taken. You definitely need to burn that ad as quickly as possible. If you can, ideally you'd want to have your dots up on Calphayus, and as soon as the ad is able to be attacked, you'll want to smash and have the ad dots spread from the boss to the ad, and then switch your target to the ad, so you're already throwing up as many bleeds as you can on him.
Okay, now what about in the present phase? How hard a big thing to remember as a melee DPS is to not stand in front of the boss, correct?
Yes, you want to stand behind the boss. You pretty much just want to stand with the group, just 1 meter behind him, so you're not actually going to get the red circle as well. So the present phase, you're just kind of standing with the group and.
Yeah, so it's not as hard as Tyrants, but definitely got to remember positioning and listening to callouts. Also, we do have a question for Tom. What healer do you consider is currently the best overall for PvE healing?
It's not really a general what's best. It's what comps are best for the fight, and it's not one's better than the other. It's just certain classes are better at certain things. Mercs are definitely the best for bursting. Having healing scan with no cooldown for 10 seconds, absolute best burst you can get. Operatives have better AoE heals. Sorks sit in the middle range. They have really good middle of the range burst that's always consistent. Very good maintenance healers, as I would call them. maintenance being like maintaining the group. So it's mainly like, what is your group struggling with? If your group is struggling with like maintaining the whole group throughout a burn phase, go operative. If it's just like your tank is getting wailed on and the healers aren't able to keep them up, you need to go get a merc. If it's like the whole group is taking like consistent damage, but it's not anything that's like overwhelming at first, a Sork is really good at maintaining that pressure.
Right. A lot of groups will take a Sork operative composition or a Sork merc composition. Um, Biggest thing is trying not to double stack healers. So like not double Sorks. Double Sorks you can get away with. It's a little bit harder because of bubbles. But really hard to double operative, and it's extremely hard to double merc. So making sure that you have a double operative best healing combination. It's very, very important to make sure that you have a balance of healers. So you want like a big burst healer and then a maintenance healer, um, which is really what you want to go for. We should double up. All right. Moving on. I hope that answered your question there, Yeti. Thank you so very much for the question. Range DPS. I'm going to be standing out because I've got this nice little reflect bubble. So I'm going to be standing out during Calphayus. Typically, you want to merc. Or a sniper. Sniper works, but my snipers here want to fluff, so we're gonna let them fluff. So I'm gonna stand out. I'm going to be going left side first, which is going to be. So I'm gonna stand away from where the portal spawns, which is going to be right around here. Um, yeah, that's the plan. And that's where, around that area is where the other portal spawns. So you want to make sure if you are the one that's baiting the red circles, um, you're not standing by the portals because you don't want to run the risk of your tank or any player with the inevitability debuff getting hit by the damage from the red circle. Um, Biggest things for us range is that if you're not kiting or you're not baiting the red circles, you want to be stacked with the group. So you're going to be a fake melee if you are not taking care of the red circle. And then other than that, it's honestly very easy for ranged. Only thing you got to remember is just you're a fake melee. That's it. You're a fake lay? Fake lay? I think we're going to call it fake lay. All right.
Biggest thing. The biggest difference on Calphy between story mode, hard mode, and Nim is that the cast timer between phases when he jumps is shortened. Story mode 15 seconds, hard mode 10, Nim 5.
Yep. Big. Yeah, I was actually getting to that, but thank you so very much for bringing it up. So whenever Calphayus moves into phases in between, which is 80%, 50%, and 20%. Um, um, he's going to jump back to the throne as we saw in story mode. He's going to jump back to where he is right now. And then that's when you separate the groups. But yes, and if you don't get into the portal in time, you will just get zero sum one shot. So definitely make sure to keep an eye on those percentages to make sure that you know when the boss is about to phase. But finally, the biggest role here is going to be for our tank. So Bishop, talk to me about tanking Calphayus.
So we're going to be keeping him here at the wall. So his inevitability is something new, and what that does is a cleave. It's like 180, something like that. I don't know the exact degrees, and it knocks you back and anybody who's in it back and gives you a debuff. Looks like Mind Trap on a sin. And like we talked about in SM, no PTs, he says. Like we talked about in SM, if you're touched with anything, any damage at all with that debuff, then you die. So it's a tank swap. Your tank, if you are the tank who doesn't pull him, or the tank who isn't currently holding, you want to be standing directly behind him so you're not getting hit with inevitability. Inevitability is a 1-second cast, so you need to be up on your game. When you see that, you're taunting immediately. And then you get in front, your code tank goes behind, even though there's no real cleave, but it's just a matter of being in the right position for the next inevitability. So that's your tank swap. And it is a big old knockback, so that's why we want to have our backs to the wall so we don't get thrown out somewhere. And then we'll split left. I'm on left. Okay. So both sides, your job is to keep holding him when you're on or when you're in the portals. That doesn't change. But the biggest thing you can do, say on the right side, is try, and I will be for Nightmare, is try to kite the Defiler around when he spawns to get him delaying, to keep him from starting his cast as long as possible. But the biggest thing is you just want to be pumping out as much DPS as possible. On the left side, you want to be, again, stacking Calphayus with all the ads and cleaving them down as best you can. You can get pretty good numbers. I can get up to like 8k or something just by being on the left side. So, keep that in mind. You just want to stack them up. And then you come out, you swap. Again, coordinates which tank is going to pick them up. Typically, the tank who goes left will want to pick him up because there's more damage going out on the right side for both phases. So when they swap to left, they will tend to take more damage. So I'm going to be picking up the boss each time as we come out. I will tend to be healthier, more guaranteed anyway. And then for third phase, I don't know how we're going to be doing it. It looks like we have 2 stealthers. What we're going to be doing is picking up Calphayus on the right side. And now Calphayus will be sitting in a bubble. And the only way to get him to move is to get within melee range, okay? If you're taunting him and you're standing 30 meters away, he doesn't move. So you want to pick him up by getting into range, and then you're going to be moving him. And you want to kind of kite him around so you're not taking a lot of damage. When you hear that your crystal carrier is in the present, you want to get him into positions. We like to go left side, then right side. And when we're there, I'll show you. You'll see it more clearly. But when you're standing there holding him in position, he does a lot of damage. And overall, Calphayus hits like a truck, but it's all white damage. So any sort of cooldown that you can run for, when you're going to be holding him for a long time will be helpful, especially something like Saber Ward or Deflection or Explosive Fuel and Oil Slick. Again, it's all white damage. He does hit like a truck, though. That's with one big mechanic. And then you hold him on the left side, Crystal goes down, help DPS as much as you can. And then start kiting him again until the same thing happens. Your crystal carrier's in the present. Bring him to the right side. Pop a cooldown if you're going to be face tanking him for a little while. I don't really think there's much else to it.
Okay.
Honestly, you want to be pumping out as much DPS as possible. That's just as important as tanking him.
Yeah, so Calphayus does have a bit of a DPS check, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to show everybody all of the different phases as much as I can. So I'll show you what it's like to pick it up as the crystal, so you don't really need to worry about that. And yes, it is a lot of information to process. Calphayus is a very mechanical heavy fight, but once you get into the swing of things, once you see the mechanics, at least for me, once I start seeing it, it starts to make sense. Well, if nobody has anything else to say, we're going to go ahead and ready check and get this bad boy started. Also, thank you, Zoo, for coming in and helping us out. I really do appreciate it.
My
Rebounders on
operations
first.
are now really screwed.
Oh, do you want me
I
to...
don't know. Why do we do this?
I just wanted to show the
I'm putting up a
separation.
60. No, dude, you're fine. Okay.
Well, too bad. We're moving them back.
All right, we'll have rebounders on first, pulling in 3, 2, 1.
Your future, your past, your doom.
So there is the red circle. See how far I'm standing away from it here. It is very important to make sure that the person, whoever...
You're not in healing range.
I'm not in healing range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seeds of darkness
Feels bad.
bloom into nightmares.
Make sure, sides. Doggy.
Boy's got like an hour.
He's got like an
A
hour.
whole hour.
Right. Okay. So this is the past for phase 1. And as you can see, we get this new buff debuff called Visions of the Past, which means if we go back into the past with this debuff, we will get one shot.
Tree is front left.
Tree is front left. Thank you very much. So when they say things, when you hear your person in the future call out, you know how in story mode we had that big line of yellow light showing us where the seed needed to be planted? We don't have that anymore. So now you have to rely on your team in the future to tell us where the tree is. So they said front left, so that means it's going to be right here. Welcome back. So mostly very important just to make sure that your seed in the past stays healed to full, or as much as you can. this corruptor here will do a eternal corruption cast on the seed. That can actually be cleansed. So if you do see that on the seed, you can go ahead and get rid of it. It's got about 10 seconds left right now. Calphayus goes into a bubble that you cannot damage him in around 20% or anything lower. So you can breathe a little bit easier. Seed is about to be ready to be picked up. And confirming once again, it's going to be front left.
Front left.
Front left.
You struggling?
Clearly.
Yes.
So
By the way, for you tanks, in this phase, the Ravagers are the ones who can be moved. Despoilers can't, so you want to stack Ravagers and the boss on the Despoiler.
thank you very much. So the seed has been planted correctly. We are good to go. Who's left? No, who's on first? All right, so I, being the range DPS, I am going to get out as fast as I possibly can. Everyone else is going to stack. I'm going to get out of the group as fast as I possibly can to make sure that the debuff doesn't go on anyone close. I got my own bubble. Fast, by the way.
I always forget that.
All right, now you're going to swap frames. So swap sides. So anybody who was on the left is going to go to the right now, and whoever was on the right, Coggy. Oh God, scaring me, boy.
Did you make it?
Yeah, he made it.
Okay.
All right, so this is what the future will look like, and so the tree that we were talking about being planted, that's right here, actually. So here in phase 2, we're getting ready to, at 80%, he's going to do his first jump. Get ready for the first jump. It's going to be front right, noon, front right, 12.
Fuck no orb, dude.
No orb. No orb in hard mode.
I was ready for it.
I know, you were so ready for it. And he's down. Hi, Zoltaros. It's good to see you. Have fun with your family.
Yeah, 50% and then 30%.
Yeah, so 50 and 30 is when he does his next jumps. We're at 60% right now. How are you guys looking over there? Phasing. Front left, 12 o'clock. Front left, 12.
Fuck.
There's no orbs! Aw, I'm sorry to hear that, Zeltaros. He's down. So in the past, in phase 2, what you're going to have to do is there's going to be all of these crystals, but you have to actually DPS them down so you can burn them when he does the jump. Back left, 9. Back left, 9.
Don't fall for it, Bishop.
I'm not. I'm good. All stealth scan. Where?
You got this.
That's the secret mechanic.
Secret
Yep.
mechanic OP.
There it is. My man.
Surprise mechanics. Alright, once again, I'm going to get out as fast as I possibly can. Make sure that once again, I don't accidentally not get the red circle. And it is called Distorted Perception. That is not what I wanted to do. No! I'm messing up. Alright, so he's about to phase again. So everyone else is going to go to the right. I'm going to go to the left the first time just to show what the what it looks like to pick it up. Everyone, there is no guardian, so. No, I do not know who Red Vector is. So here's what it looks like in the second phase for past. You can see all of these crystals have been damaged. So that's what you're going to be looking at for second phase. All right. So for the Seed of Knowledge, it's going to be back here on the on this table. You're going to pick it up. I guess I'll pick it up this time. Yeah, no Nephra. I'll pick it up. So I'm going to pick it up. You do get the person, whoever is carrying the seed, does take damage. So just be aware of that. There is also no timer for the Seed of Knowledge in hard mode. There is a timer for how long you can hold the Seed of Knowledge for Nightmare. Hi, Flying Blind. How are you? All right, we're gonna plant on the left side first. Getting ready to plant. You just let me know whenever you're ready.
Been ready.
Been ready, born ready. All right, so when we're saying planting, we're going to put it on the... Oh, well, I went through the wrong phase. Wrong portal. So, and then after that, you're going to go to the orange portal. He's going to be pushed down, and that's when you're going to be able to DPS him.
The moment of truth nears.
So otherwise, he goes back into that bubble, and then you're going to repeat it again on the other side. You can only plant on one side once, and once you have picked up the seed of knowledge, you're not able to pick it up again. So, in this phase, Calphayus tends to hit like a truck, which is why people will joke around saying they need the Benny Hill theme going on right now. Because our tank is kiting him around. Let us know whenever you're ready.
We're ready.
All right, we're ready. All right, so there's a big yellow circle that pops that spawns whenever the seed has been planted successfully, and then he'll get hit with the weight of knowledge, and that is Calphayus.
We'll meet again.
Hi, Roscoe. How are you? All right, to Raptus, my favorite boss. By the way, again, if you guys have any questions in chat, I know that this is a lot of information to process. So a lot of these are very mechanics heavy, so please feel free, ask questions. We are happy to answer them. That's why we're here. So how you guys doing today?
Us?
Yeah, us.
Excellent.
Excellente, egg-salady.
Egg salad.
Egg salad. Excellent, egg salad. Oh, that sounds fun. Someone wants to know how we remember all of these routines, how all of these fights work.
Doing them repeatedly over and
Over and over and over and over again.
because of lack of content.
Oof, toxic.
Well, I mean, what, we've gotten one raid in how many years? Zero.
Well, it's okay. We're getting a new raid in September. I'm excited.
I mean,
Messing with your Wi-Fi. Oh no. We don't go outside. Yeah, that's right. We don't go outside. Outside is for losers. It is possible if your router is running hot. That's correct. Hey, Blanks, don't face pull this time, okay? You can talk, Blinks. It's okay.
is there cleansing in hard mode?
No,
No.
not in hard mode. In Nightmare it is, but not hard mode.
So the only difference is,
Just how, like, it's a lot harder.
well, no, the main difference is a DPS gets pulled versus a tank.
Yes,
Yep.
that's the biggest difference.
Gotcha. See, remember everything about Nim? We have to go back to try and remember what hard mode.
What hard mode and story mode are, yeah.
It's kind of sad.
It's kind of funny. All right, the fourth boss of Palace, Dreadmaster Raptus. As you can hear, we were already talking a little bit about healing Dreadmaster Raptus, but go ahead and talk to me a little bit more about it there, Tom.
It's roughly the same as story mode. A little bit more damage, like burst damage from from the few of the knockups and bits and attacks that go on. I don't really know their names. I just know that the tanks do take a bit of burst damage from him more than in story mode. I believe the driving thrust, yeah, that's it. The tanks get knocked up into the air, so there could be some memes where suddenly, oh yeah, a DPS just gets hit for 60k because the other tank was AFK for some reason. I don't know. did not on their A game with the taunts, basically. Other than that, the healer challenge, you gotta out again, do more healing. It's nothing that's too difficult versus story mode, but it's it's a healer challenge. You need both healers to be healing roughly.
That's not true though. I've had my co-healer DC and the soul.
It's harder to solo heal it in the
Yeah, it's
harder
pretty rough.
difficulties. Yeah, it's very rough. Like it requires having all of your debuffs, your CDs up. So like polarity shift, recklessness, adrenal. Like it requires a lot more thorough if you have to solo heal. So it's really recommended that you don't.
Yeah. For operatives, it would be keep making sure you have stim boost, triage adrenal, basically just having that ready to go. Also making sure that like you don't waste your set bonus going into the challenge. And by set bonus, I mean that each of the 3 healer classes you have an auto crit on one of your moves. For operatives, it's Colto Injection. For mercs, it's Rapid Scan for some reason. And for Sorks, it's Dark Infusion. Yeah, should be Dark.
Yeah, it's Dark Confusion.
For like Scoundrel, that's Emergency Med Pack. For Sage, that's Deliverance, and I don't know for Commando.
I think it is actually
Medical
like
probe.
medical prep. Okay, thank you.
Medical Probe. Okay. But yeah, those are your main like set bonus heals, and knowing when your set bonus is procced and when to use it is kind of crucial, because like a normal Colto injection will probably heal for like 10, maybe like 12, maybe 16k if it's a normal crit, but if it's an auto crit, it can heal somewhere between 24 to 29k.
Yikes! Wow. Well, thank you very much for that. Kagi, talk to me a little bit about being mainly DPS here on Raptus. If he's still here. If not, we'll talk range. Kagi, you there? All right. We'll come back to that. All right. So being a ranged DPS here on Raptus is not very different than it is in story mode. When he drops down the first time, he doesn't do forced execution except in Nightmare. That's right. So the biggest difference in hard mode from story mode is that instead of a tank getting challenged in the challenge phase, the DPS will get challenged. So instead of 4 DPS going into the DPS challenge, it's going to be 3. So if we, as ranged DPS, get selected to be challenged by Raptus, it's just very important that we make sure that we kite him around. And it's really beneficial to try and closer to the tank challenge area due to them being able to pick Raptus off of you as fast as possible. And you definitely don't want to aim it into any of the portals, because once that channel ends, he will do I don't remember if he does this in hard mode, but it is good practice. Doesn't he do like driving thrust immediately after Rafflecopter phase in challenges?
Yeah, after the second one.
After the second one. So he starts doing driving thrust. So it's really good really, really good not to turn Raptus into any of the portals until just because you don't want somebody getting one shot coming out of the portal. But other than that, it's really, really easy for range. We stay up on the little throne area. Honestly, we don't really need to worry about much. Just make sure you get your crystal and call it a day, really. Bishop. Actually, no. Kagi, welcome back. Talk to me a little bit about being a melee DPS here on Raptus.
Run for your life! In reality, it's not too bad. Positioning is key. You want to be behind the boss or to the side of him, depending on where the tanks have him, really. If he's in the middle and the tanks are just swapping him from side to side, you can stand in the square middle and just DPS him no matter which way he's facing. You won't get hit by any of his...
You cut out there.
Oh, you won't get hit by any of his cleaves.
Mm-hmm.
And then what you're going to want to do is, once he starts doing his cast ability where it's the ball and then the lightning all the way through and through.
Force execution.
Force execution, that one. Yes, I knew that name. So when he's doing force execution as a juggernaut, you're actually able to reflect that. You can reflect the lightning beam, not the circle. So you're going to want to get out of the circle, but stand inside of the lightning beam and just hit that reflect. You'll be able to reflect every other one. So don't worry about trying to get every one of them. Just get one and then skip one, get the other, and then skip.
Right. So yeah, just like with ranged DPS, being a melee DPS just requires a bit of positioning. Positioning is key here. All right, Bishop. Let's talk Raptus.
Why that dude glowing though?
Because
Oh,
he spent a
golden
whole bunch
green
of money.
Oh my god. So with Raptus, what we're gonna do is tank him, and the way we're gonna do that is like the first time we hold him before the first challenge, we just want to keep him faced away from everybody, not because he does anything special, but because one of his basic attacks is just a big ol' arcing cleave. So we want to keep that away from the group. Second time, or after the first challenge, he starts doing Deadly Slash, which is the big ol' knock. So big thing you want to do there is keep that again faced away from the group. However, if you are slow, I think he also starts doing Rising Slash at that point, which is the tank swap. So Rising Slash is an upward slash that sends the person who has aggro into the air. They're stunned, and they lose aggro on him. So that is a tank swap. If your tank is slow on the swap, or if something goes wrong and he moves around, he does have a potential to do a butt cleave, basically. So where he does it. He does his knockback, his Deadly Slash facing the opposite way from where it's actually telegraphed, and that can mess you up. So you want to be on your game as soon as you see your tank is up, and it's a good idea to follow them so you can see when they have the immobilized debuff. You want to taunt him and be in position so that you don't risk having a butt cleave like that. And then when you are taking Deadly Slash, you want to keep him faced away. As soon as he starts casting it, you're able to run through and not get knocked back. PT tank luckily can hydro it, so I don't have to worry if I get caught. Jug with Unstoppable can use that too if they're in a bad spot. After the second challenge, he starts doing Force Execution and Driving Thrust. And what's interesting about Driving Thrust in hard mode is that it does more damage than it does in Nightmare.
So strange.
Yeah, well, they had to make it challenging somehow. So Driving Thrust, it is a must that you have that faced away from everybody but yourself if you're holding him. And if you're able to time it well and have Heat Blast or any major cooldown for it, that would be ideal. Since obviously you can force speed pretty much as you need in addition to any other cooldown. Force Execution, like Cog was talking about, is going to be a big old telegraph. It's your job as the tank, if you have it, to run in a way that doesn't mess it up. So if you have Force Execution on you and you start running kind of zigzagging around, that Force Execution is going to follow you, and that's going to mess people up who are trying to get out of it. So best way to do it is as soon as Force Execution comes out, you turn your camera 180 degrees and you just run straight back from the way you were facing. You don't move side to side, you just run out, and that way the execution stays straight the entire time and not facing towards anybody else. Since I'm a power tech, I have Sonic Rebounder, and I'm able to give that Sonic Rebounder for Force Execution for the Reflect. So if I'm gonna, I'll have Rebounders, I'll call it out, Rebounder on the next execution, and people are able to stay in the telegraph, get some extra DPS while they're running away. The timing of it is pretty static, but general rule of thumb is just keep him faced away from everybody else. Watch for the tank swap. Watch for when your tank goes flying up in the air, and that's a swap. You are swapping when you taunt like that off the second highest threat, not off the tank's threat, because they have currently no threat. So it's pretty common for the tank who gets knocked up to come back down, and then Raptus aggro's back to them because the off tank didn't taunt off that main tank's threat. They taunted off the DPS, the healer, or themselves. So be aware of that. If you want to double taunt when you see the tank go up, that's a good idea, so that you don't have any random aggro swaps during a bad time. For the actual challenge itself, we just take damage. I'm taking the shoulder cannon heal, so I can use that. And there, the damage isn't really anything to worry about in hard mode. If you want to use overcharge, if you want to use something, shroud maybe, Enraged defense on a jug is your godsend. You don't need any other cooldown besides enraged defense. That's fine. That's the way to handle the tank challenge. Other than that, though, make sure you have your debuffs on the target and you're using your rotation to get your passive mitigation up, and that's about it.
Anything else you would like to add? Anyone? Bishop? Tom? Kagi? Anything else?
When do we use red buffs? I never know during this fight. Is it just
Um,
during like
After
burn
the second
or-
challenge.
30%.
Yeah,
sure.
after the second challenge, so after the first force execution is when you use right buffs.
We went
Or
over
sub
interrupts
30.
for the melee, or not for the melee, for the DPS section.
No, thank you very much for talking about that. So starting in hard mode and going into nightmare, the ad in the DPS challenge is going to have an interrupt that needs to make sure that you get. Otherwise, it heals to full. Otherwise, it heals to full and you fail the challenge. So just be on the lookout for that. It starts around 20% or about 15 seconds into the challenge. 15 to 20 seconds into the challenge.
I just know to hit my interrupt button when I see it casting.
He starts moving. He starts like twitching or targeting somebody when he's about to. That's kind of your indication.
Yeah.
And it's a good idea to have your melee or your non-casting / channeling DPS do it, so that like snipers don't have to worry about breaking a coal or an ambush. So jugs, Mars, etc. should be on top of the interrupt.
Yep. All right. Thank you so very much. All right, we're gonna ready check this bad boy up and we're gonna get going.
3, 2, 1.
No execution in hard mode.
You cannot comprehend.
All right, so we are now into the nightmare challenge arena. Everybody's go ahead and get the crystal zoo. So tanks are going to bring him down to the middle, and they're going to keep him there as ranged and healers. We're pretty much going to stand up here on this crystal area.
Seek reason. You cannot comprehend.
You cannot comprehend. So as a DPS, I always like to make sure I have one big cooldown available, whether that's Adrenal, as a Sork, it's Polarity Shift, and Recklessness. Like, I try to have a big CD available to me going, if I don't get challenged, then I have to go into the challenge. So, I got pulled first anyway. Alright, so, as a DPS, the biggest thing for us to do is, A, make sure we don't take a butt ton of damage from being hit, but also, he will aggro onto the person who's closest to him. So, you don't really want to move him anywhere closer to anybody else if you're the one that has to kite Raptus around. But, so this is all I'm going to do, is I'm just going to make sure that he doesn't touch me, he doesn't touch anyone else. The DPS over there are waiting for 30 seconds to go in. Bishop, would you like to tell us why we're waiting for 30 seconds?
So that we don't all come out at the same time, and the tanks are able to pick him up and get him into position.
There you go.
And they can get healed up by the healers after taking the tank shot.
And there you go. Alright, oh, I forgot about this mechanic. Alright, so in hard mode, starting in hard mode, there is a mechanic where Raptus will port a random player. It is a channel. So you're going to see a debuff on your bar, and there's going to be like a blue / purple, pink, whatever, whirling around your feet. It is an AoE, so if you manage to take, like, or if you're standing with somebody else, they will get ported with you. But you'll just get teleported to the you get teleported to the very end of the map. See, here I go again. You're going to get ported to the very end of the map by the bridge, and then you just run back. Make sure you don't get hit by the bridge boss, and call it a day.
Such minds. Such
Fertile grounds. Thank you for the pull.
terror.
Patara. Use my face walk here just in case.
Cannot seek reason. You
Cannot comprehend.
His whole rising slash is a melee attack. If you're able to defend it, you're able to avoid the aggro dump and the tank swap. Which is why I kind of like to have oil slick down if I know it's coming, just to give myself a decent chance of resisting it or dodging it.
So, since the people who weren't challenged by Raptus, so the DPS that weren't challenged by Raptus, we're going to hover around the DPS portal. We're going to wait until it says challenges have 30 seconds left, and then we're all going to go in together. Very important that you do that because the challenges start as soon as any person enters any portal. All right, so go in. All right, we have one.
It's got you to watch for the DPS challenges. Make sure you don't do anything.
You're getting
Do a
ported inside the
Dragon
port.
Thrust, and now we're about to have an execution.
All right, so here's the execution. As soon as that's over, go ahead and pop raid buffs. You can also get your crystal again because it does give you a buff and a debuff. So, oof, that knockback.
So that was that's what we were talking about.
Yep. So the knockback, not driving thrust, sorry, the cyclone
No
slasher,
rebound.
yeah,
Stealth thrust is good.
good job. It does actually start knocking you back really, really far now, so you definitely, another reason why we keep him into the middle is because of that knockback. Oh
Sorry.
boy.
You're all dead.
They're on my screen.
So deadly slash knocks back, which is why I positioned myself against the crystal. I've seen the tank stand in very different places in the main area. What is the best way to tank this one? Where is the best?
I like down here in this square where we've had him.
We'll try for his that doesn't matter.
Nah, he's almost dead. Don't worry about it.
Oh my.
Spinning. That's a nice trick. I was like on the edge of it and then it moved an inch.
I'm getting
and got
ported.
me.
Yeah, Marks, typically it's best, I've seen him, like, held against the, port, or the tank crystal, and that used to be the thing back when this was first released. They had all the tanks position him against that, but there is a good, chance for, like, getting, like, automatically stuck, and then automatically stuck. So it's best to keep it takes a little bit more managing to keep him here in the middle, but it's honestly honestly it is the best position is here in the middle. Yeah, you can, yeah, it's people used to do it against the crystal because it reduced the knock up for the tanks and the knockback, but it's really not worth it, honestly. I mean, I still see people doing it in story mode, so I still don't recommend doing it that way. But, I mean, it's not harmful in story mode, but in the harder difficulties, yeah, you definitely don't want to tank him against the crystal. Noodles sounds delicious. Alright, and council. And then once we're done here with council, we're going to reset the phase, and we're going to go for a Dreadmaster timed run.
Am I gonna have to play melee?
You're gonna play melee?
I think I have to.
Why is that?
Being ranged.
3 ranged is
We
just...
could always send a healer in for the melee.
I could swap to melee if that's helpful for this one.
Well, as long as we don't have 3 melee or 4 melee on Tyrans, I don't care what the comp is.
Even that is doable.
I know it is, but
It's
not
doable with
optimal.
three.
I'll
It's
melee for it.
So, am I not getting Bronte's crystal so we can show what it looks like?
No, we're gonna do it correctly because we're already at 2.5 hours, so.
I'll
Okay.
just get the crystal, Tom. I'll just get the crystal.
Okay.
Well, if you want to.
I think the DPS would crystal.
Yeah, okay. So it's very different than how we did this in story mode. It's going to be very different. So there's an actual order. There is an actual order to how we need to DPS these the Dreadmasters down. Once again, they only come down one at a time. So it's going to be Bestia, Calphayus, Raptus, and then Tyrans. I will be kiting Raptus. So I'm going to start, I'm going to aggro him right off the bat. And then I'm going to be kiting him around the area so that way he's not doing his deadly slash. Okay, if Kagi, if you would like to kite Raptus, you're more than welcome to.
I'm just kidding. You can go ahead.
Okay. So, very important for the Raptus kiter to make sure that they don't cleave the group and that the Whirlwind, his Rafflecopter, is kept in control. That's the biggest thing for the Raptus kiter. So the order of operations here for the boss is going to be Bestia. So what do we call it? It's bacon tomato ranch chicken sandwich. That's what we call it. So it's Bestia, Raptus, Tyrans, Raptus, Calphayus. Calphayus has to be left last because if you push him down below 42%, he will do, what is that? I've never seen it because we try very, very hard not to happen. Anyway, he will one-shot the entire raid group. I think it's called inevitability. And he'll just completely one-shot the group. That's it. There's no coming back from it. So Calphayus has to be kept till last. Yeah, so it's a bacon, tomato, ranch chicken sandwich. That's how you can remember it. Bestia, Tyrans, Raptus, Calphayus. That is the order of people you need to push. You're also going to hear us call out percentages. That's going to be the percentages of where the bosses are at all times. As you get into the harder difficulties, the amount of time they spent recharging gets shorter and shorter and shorter. So in hard mode or in story mode, it's like I think it's 90 seconds of channeling once you push them back up to their throne. In hard mode, it's 30 seconds, and then in Nightmare, they actually have different times. Calphayus is the short. Bestia and Calphayus are Bestia is the shortest. So that's why in Nightmare we push Bestia last. We're gonna make sure we don't push any one of the bosses below 55% until we are saying that all of the Dreadmasters are around the 52 to 55% health mark, and then we're going to call out for a push. And that's what we mean by that. So that means we're going to go around the clock, and we're going to DPS all of the different Dreadmasters down, and then we're going to phase them all basically at the same time, so that way they don't jump back down and we have to restart the fight, because otherwise you can't do that. You can't do that. All right, so that's phase 1. Another thing that happens in phase 1 is also the reintroduction of the death mark mechanic from Tyrans. Highly recommend making sure Tyrans is in your focus target at all times. Make sure that you know where that cast bar is coming off. I'm kiting. I am kiting Raptus today. So everyone pretty much can have everyone but power techs and snipers have their own cleanse. So if you do have a cleanse, it is best if you go ahead and use it. So we have 2 snipers and a power tech in the group, so we're going to have 3 cleanses that are going to be going off. Your healers are going to make sure that they coordinate which one. You're going to have 2 different icons. Bodies and heads is what they're called. Yeah, it's also in Hardmode. Yeah, you can roll Death Mark, but I don't recommend it, especially if you're learning the fight or if you're learning how to play Sniper. Yeah, Sniper heal spec is live. So, definitely keep Tyrans in your focus target at all times. And that's going to be phase 1. Phase 2, we're going to have words are hard. Brontes and Styrak are going to drop down. Everyone is going to jump in the middle, stay in the middle, group up for AoE heals because there's going to be a bunch of lightning that goes around that does damage. The tank that's going to be in charge of Styrak is going to go get his crystal, which is right here. And then one of the healers is going to go over here. and grab Bronte's crystal. As we were talking about in story mode, if you don't get the crystal for Bronte, she will have her supremacy debuff, and she'll start yeeting people off of the side, like she does in Dread Fortress during the Bronte's fight, where she does fire and forget. She will lift them up and throw them across the arena. Because if you do get thrown off of the side, there is a chance that you'll live, but you take a lot of fall damage. So I took about 80% of my health there. So 80% of my health just by dropping. You do also get the ignored buff, so a lot of people will jump down to try and reset if we need to reset the boss. That's a tactic, but anyway, so we don't really want to get pushed off the side. And if you have to get the Styrak crystal, because tell me why exactly you need to get the Styrak crystal aside from just having him auto aggro onto you, Bishop.
I don't know. I've never seen what happens if you don't.
We just don't do it. We just
I
always.
think he does. I don't know. He does a lot more damage, I think.
Yeah, he does a lot more
I
damage.
honestly think it's just an aggro.
It is just an aggro. That's what I thought too, but we've never.
He does spines.
He might actually.
Interesting.
I don't know, but
We might
maybe.
have to. We might have to find
I've
out.
never seen it. It's so easy to get. Like, there's no reason not to.
Yeah, there's no reason not to get it. Yeah, there is an underside. It's a bunch of water. Similar holocron as Tyrans, which is right there. So that's phase 2. In phase 2, so the order to kill is Styrak and then Bronte's. Reason we do this is because Bronte's, when she hits the 20% mark, she does her clock phase like Fortress. So once again, it is the exact same mechanic. You cannot get touched by the lightning, otherwise you die. So it always starts, as you can see, where these tank markers are lined up. So her clock phase starts here. She's going to teleport to the middle. There's going to be a big glowing circle here around the holocron. She's going to start here, and then she's going to slowly turn around and do her clock phase all around the arena. So that's why you kill Styrak first, because you don't want to be dealing with Bronte's clock and Styrak at the same time. Styrak doesn't do anything until Nightmare, so that is the only... Yes, this video is going to be up on YouTube. So that is phase 2. Phase 3, we're going to deal with all of the Dreadmasters once again. Same thing, however, the people who are in charge of their respective Dreadmasters, so for me it will be Raptus, you are in charge of going and getting their crystal. So when phase 3 starts, they're going to jump down into the middle and channel Power of the Dreadmasters, I think it's what the channel is called. So that is the time portals are going to spawn in these areas. So the tank on Calphayus, the tank on Bestia, the DPS on Raptus, and the DPS on Tyrans will go to each of one of their thrones, jump through the portal, channel the crystal, and bye gamer, and channel the crystal. That also will put an instant aggro. So you could not pull Calphayus off of the tank with the Calphayus crystal. Same with Bestia, same with Raptus, unless you die. So try not to die. So we're gonna... Phase 3 is the exact same as phase 1, except for the fact that we're not gonna touch Calphayus at all. Calphayus is, and Bishop will talk a little bit more about tanking Calphayus, but nobody touches Calphayus. We're gonna burn Bestia down to about 20% or 22%. We're gonna hard stop there. And then we're going to whittle the other, we're going to whittle Raptus and Tyrans down to about 22%, and then we're going to call out for a push. Then we'll burn Bestia down to 18%, and that's when phase 4 starts. All of them jump into the middle here. Everyone will stack in the middle for AoE heals. Sniper shields will all start here. And then the same thing, the bacon chicken ranch. The bacon tomato ranch chicken sandwich comes back into play. We're going to burn Bestia, then Tyrans, then Raptus. Well, Tyrans and Raptus are interchangeable in burn phase, just depends on who's lower going into burn. But Bestia is always first. Try to make Bestia first, and then Calphayus is always last. Every time Calphayus is always last, because he still does that mechanic where if he goes down below 42%, where any of the rest of the Dreadmasters are alive, he'll one-shot the group. So that is a little bit of the overview of the actual mechanics and phases of the fight. But Tom, talk to me about healing this fight.
Okay, so the main differences between story and hard mode is your death marks go from 1 to 4. There are 4 different death marks. There is what I like to call the dead body with his arms like flailing. There's the mummy where it's wrapped up like a, and then there's heads, which is the guy that looks like the meme face. You know the face that
The
like
rage face.
all the memes are made out of. Yeah, the rage face. And then there's a skull. Skull ticks down the fastest, followed by I believe body, like the dead body, and then after that is rage face, and then mummy. Mummy ticks the slowest. So when you're working that out between the healers, it's like most of the time the way cleanses work. Like my cleanse is a 10-second cooldown, and it's like a 40-second mechanic. It's like the first one ticks down for 10 seconds, the second one's 20, maybe not 20, more like 15. Third is like roughly around there. So they're all staggered. So one healer has to get 2 cleanses, the other healer gets the other 2. So you most likely split them between like heads and bodies. But with the healer strat we do mostly with like hard mode and nim is that the healers divide the room in half. So from tank marker to tank marker, imagine just splitting the room in half, and like one healer is in charge for the DPS side of the room and one healer is in charge of the healer side of the room. The reason you do that is you want one healer always on Calphy and one healer always on the Raptus Kiter. And I know your next question is, well, who's healing the Bestia tank? The Bestia tank gets punted into mid and both healers burst heal them, apply hots basically, because Bestia doesn't do as much damage as the other ones, and most of her stuff is like you can mitigate it fairly easy. The only thing that you cannot mitigate as much is the kick. That's why you'll see tanks position themselves here at the bridge, and when they take the punt, they'll end up here at the crystal. Both healers stop what they're doing and burst heal the Bestia tank as they're running away. So yeah, you have to work out the cleanses, who's on heads, who's on bodies. You also have to determine like, do you actually need to cleanse? Because there are some groups where it's like, oh yeah, you've got 2 Sin tanks, you've got a Mara who can cleanse themselves, a Sin DPS, a Merc, and like a Sork DPS. And like all of them have the ability to self-cleanse. Here we don't. We have a PT tank, we have 2 snipers, so we need to work out like who's cleansing what. And like it'll change, because if the PT tank gets heads, I have to get heads and they have to get bodies. If the PT tank gets bodies, I have to get bodies, my co-healer has to get heads. So it's like interchangeable. Of like it's good to have like the idea of like, this is what we'll do if the Calphy tank gets heads. So like when death marks go out, and if the PT tank gets one, I'll shout out heads or bodies. He'll know to get the other one. Like I'll shout out I have heads, he'll get bodies, or if I have bodies, he'll get heads. So you just have to really have coordination with your co-healer about that. Other than that, when your co-healer is getting the Brontes crystal, you have to make sure that like the tank doesn't get global by Brontes and Styrak at the same time, because one tank is holding both of them. So basically it's just making sure that the group as a whole stays alive during the 5 seconds that you're alone. I
Yeah.
thought you were getting Brontes crystal. I don't know, we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
Maybe no one's getting Brontes
Talk
crystal.
to me a little bit about burn phase.
Yeah, I guess we'll just.
About burn phase?
Burn phase.
Okay, so going into burn, you're like both healers, you're on your respective roles as you, like, as I said, one healer is healing the Calphy side, one healer is healing the Raptus side. So going into burn, it's basically coming to the middle. You want to stack in the middle as much as possible. And as a healer, you want to be running like your DCDs. Like me, the first thing I'm going to pop is Shield Probe, and I'm going to start Colto Waves, I'm going to start Nanotech. Those 2 things are going to need to go down like on cooldown as an operative healer to maintain like heals on the group. As a Sork, you're in a rare position where you do not have to use what's the thing before Roaming Mend to make
Resurgence.
it auto? Yeah, you don't have to use Resurgence before Roaming Mend because Roaming Mend will proc on all 4 stacks because there's consistent AoE damage. So you can use Resurgence to reduce the force cost of your
Innervate Revivification.
yeah, Revivication, that AoE heal. Because that's really the biggest force coster for Sorks. So you can do that. You can pop Roaming Mend, go Resurgence into a no stack
Roaming Men, Resurgence,
AoE.
Revivification.
Revivication. Yeah, it's been a while since I Sork killed. But Mercs, it's basically just Cultural Missile on cooldown, progressive scan. You can put out your shells, but I mean, in between like missiles and progressive scan. But I mean, other than that, as the Merc, you're going to be like burst healing people.
All right. Well, thank you so very much for that. Kagi, talk to me about being a melee here on Council.
Lots of jumping around. Depends on what boss is at what percentage. And you're just going to be switching from bosses to bosses, calling out percentages, keeping an eye out, making sure you're not pushing anybody. It's not terribly hard. Self-cleanse that we've already taken from Endure Pain a while ago. So you're going to be doing that whenever you see the... what is it? What are they called again?
Death marks.
Death marks. Man, I should know this stuff, shouldn't I? Coming from Raptus. You could get Soa, just enjoy the time, I guess. And just follow what everybody else says on who to attack. Oh, the big thing is not to stand in the circles from Calphayus. The red circles that he drops on the ground, that reduces your damage output. So if you're on him, you definitely don't want to be standing in those red circles.
And Bishop will talk a little bit more about those red circles. But thank you very much. Melee, yeah, lots of bouncing around, so just keep that in mind. Range, we actually have a really, really easy job unless you're the Raptus Kiter. Raptus kiting, honestly, is not as hard as it looks, so you'll grab aggro from him. I like to take the first hit from Raptus around this area and then move this way. So I just follow this path here whenever I'm doing my Raptus kiting. Very good to have. You can even kite Raptus as a like a power tech. A DPS power tech can do their entire rotation while kiting Raptus. So if you have a power tech who's confident in kiting, definitely a great thing. Otherwise, a lightning sork, very, very good to kite. Hatred assassin's really good to kite. So those who can do their entire rotation and that are very mobile. IO mercs can do it. So, but pretty much you want to have a range kiting Raptus the entire time, because he does hit like a truck. He does his back. He does a backhand. He does his vicious slash or deadly slash, which is a knockback. So whenever you see that channeling, it is a very quick channel. You'll want to run through him and make sure that you're not getting knocked off at the side. And then he'll go, so every other deadly slash, he will go into his whirlwind, and that's when you kite him again to the opposite side of the room. And the reason we take this long path is because it has the greatest amount of time between his AoE attack and the deadly slash. So that means basically I can go here, he'll do his deadly slash, and then he'll whirlwind, and then as soon as I get back to the other side, the whirlwind will be over, and as soon as I get here, he'll deadly slash and then whirlwind again. So it's very, very routine, and it's very easy once you get the hang of it. So that's all it is. Kiting Raptus is really not that hard. Like scroll through Facebook, get a stream on the other side. I mean, like, seriously, it's really not that hard to kite Raptus. Biggest things for us during second phase for range DPS is just making sure that we're not standing. We call this the tank area or the tank conal. So when Bronte starts her clock phase, you want to typically avoid these areas, because not only is that the shortest position of where, that's the shortest time between her starting the clock and her moving a clock, she always goes clockwise. But later on in Nightmare, we're gonna have Reaches spawning, very similar to Dread Fortress Phase 2 and the Bronte's fight. So we want to make sure that the melee we're not clustering Reaches. Yes, of course, of course. We're not clustering Reaches around, and we're going to talk about that more when we get into Nightmare next. I'm going to be getting the Raptus crystal, so we've already talked about that. So I'm just going to jump into the portal, grab the crystal, and then come back. So the rest of the group is going to have to be aware that the Raptus kiter is not there and is getting the crystal. So the team just needs to be sure that they are able to handle that. Usually somebody with an Autotaunt, Juggernauts, Vanguards, Power Techs, Guardians, Assassins, Shadows can pick up Raptus if he's getting a little too crazy, he's getting a little too gung ho, and take him out of the group. And then Raptus will automatically aggro onto the person who's taken his crystal. Other than that, and then in burn phase, really, we just stack up with the group, stack up for AoE heals. But other than that, range is honestly a lot easier than melee, for sure. All right, so Bishop, talk to me about tanking this fight.
I'm gonna be tanking Calphayus, so for that, Calphayus drops these circles like he does in story mode, and the idea is you keep him out of those so that he doesn't get the damage reduction debuff. So I like, tanks need to figure out what pattern they like to use. Main thing is you don't get him close to Bestia, though, wherever she might be, so that he doesn't get buffed. So what I like to do is I kind of like to start, he'll drop pretty much his first one. That's actually probably too close. I think he'll come down about, somewhere around here. And then I like to go here. And then I like to take it. This is general. I'm going to be dropping more circles than is conveyed. So this is kind of the pattern that I use to go through and kite Calphayus. I'll run that way. This is probably Nim, though. It doesn't last that long in hard mode. So I like to run him that way. And the timing of each circle is something that you got to learn. It's about 3 GCDs, and then you move him. You pick up on it the more you do it, though. So as you start, you might give him buff for a couple seconds. It's not a big deal. Just learn from it and try and get faster. Start predicting when he's going to be placing it so you can get him out. He does his crystal projection, and when he does that, it's about every 12 seconds or so. He lifts his hand up, and he chunks a bunch of crystals at you. That hurts quite a bit. You can reflect it, shroud it, etc. So if you're paying attention, you can get that off. Do it. Depending on how much DPS you're able to put out, that's when you want to call off for your DPS. So in this case, in hard mode, I'm going to ask the DPS probably to get off around 57%. Because it shouldn't take that long to push the other enemy. And then keep him out of circles. You don't want to push him below 50% until we're ready to push. That's the tank, though. So if you do a lot, just bear in mind when he's at 50%. If you're not able to cleanse yourself, i.e. PT, make sure that when Death Mark goes out, you're giving yourself as much room to work with your healers. Make sure you're if you can kind of move up, get closer to them so they can get in range of you faster, do so without messing up your kiting. For phase 2, one of us is going to pick up the Cyrac crystal and stack Cyrac on Brontes wherever she goes so that we can cleave them all down. No real things there. Just make sure that if you're not the tank who's picking up the crystal, that when you're staying on the ground, as soon as Cyrac comes out, you're picking him up, force pull, grapple, whatever you got to do to get aggro on him, because he does do a lot of damage to any DPS who pick him up. And then at the same time, make sure you are holding Brontes, because if you're not the person with the Cyrac crystal, you're going to be holding Brontes the whole time. So make sure you got aggro on her. If you're tunneling Cyrac, just check back time to time to make sure you still are her target of target. For third phase, once again, I'm going to be doing the same thing, except no DPS are going to be on Calphayus. That's fine. And then in burn, we're going to be left to die if necessary, but I like to use energy shield for pyro shield, DPS adrenal if I have it.
Talk to me a little bit about tanking Bestia, since even though you're not going to be on Bestia, tell me how to tank her appropriately.
There are 2 ways to tank her, and the most popular way is to just kite her. So in order to do that, what you do is you pull her where she is. Her biggest thing is she has this stacking debuff. It looks like Creeping Terror. When that thing gets to 4 stacks, you're global. You're one shot. There's nothing you can do about it. So the idea behind kiting is you keep her from reapplying those stacks because she has to be within about 10 meters to do it. And it's kind of it's a dance. You know, you need to assess how many stacks you have, and then that's when you're going to decide your kiting pattern. But like the way you start is she comes down, you face tank her, and you want to use her push that she does. That's the whole idea behind it. She pushes you, and that's when you take your cue to start kiting. Or you start kiting before she can even get in range, if that's going to be something that you can avoid. Typically, that's when you're going to be at about halfway done with the stacks. It's something that requires a lot of explanation as well as just seeing it, because it is kind of complicated to talk about it first. You have to judge, okay, I'm at halfway about, let me put it this way. The stacks that she does, every time she gets to about halfway expired on those stacks is when she'll apply the next one. So that's when you're going to decide, okay, I'm going to need to start kiting, or she's about to push me, so I can just stay here and she'll push me where I want to go and get out of range. It's interesting, and I feel like the best way to do it is just to have a video of it, honestly. I don't feel like talking about it would do it much justice.
Okay.
But I don't know. I think Blinks is going to be doing it, so.
Well, we can always supplement. I can try and get a supplement video about Bestia kiting at a
If
later
Blinks
date.
has anything to add about
Just direct them to Elsha.
Yeah, Elsha does have a lot of streams of DP, and she always kites Bestia.
That is true. That is true.
The biggest thing that you want to do, yeah, if you can, any recordings that we have would be good, is all 3 of the tank classes can passively or do something that increases their movement speed. If you have just regular speed, you're not going to be fast enough to outrange her. So for PTs and Sins, that's going to be pneumatic boots and obfuscation. For Jugs, you can do it with a mad dash method, or you can take the chilling stream utility that increases your speed. So that is a must that you have to have to do the kiting. There's so much to it, honestly. You know, if you get a predation from Amara, what do you do? If you have super hydras, what do you do? I don't know. But there's a lot to.
Okay, so Bestia tanking takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of just doing it and learning it
You
and
have to
learning the
do it.
dance.
You do.
Yeah.
You have to do it because it's a lot easier that way to explain it, because there are so many situations that could come up where you're like, okay, I need to stand still, or okay, I need to kite, okay, I need to go to the door.
Yeah.
Anytime you have to go deep, you know, you need to call to your healers, hey, I'm going deep, etc. So
All right.
it's a
dance. It's a dance. Good night. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to add anything? If not, we're going to go ahead and ready check and get this bad boy started.
They come down individually in hard mode, right?
Yes, they do.
Oh god. What's the percentages? Or
Same
do we just
percentages.
or do we just push them individually?
No, we're gonna push them individually, but we're gonna still do the nightmare percentages. So, all right. Orbitals.
Let us begin.
So as the Raptus kiter, I'm going to be starting on Bestia, but I'm just going to be ready for whenever he does drop.
Your time is over.
So Calphayus is now down. Raptus is about to jump down.
Abandon your mind. Victory will be ours.
All right, so there's the first deadly slash. I'm going to run all the way over here. He's doing his whirlwind right now. See how he's coming straight through the middle? Or not straight through the middle, but there's the next deadly slash, and then we just repeat ad nauseum. Death mark's coming out. Percentages, please.
62 Bestia.
70 on Tyrant.
78 on Raptus.
60 on Tyrans leaving.
Got knocked down once.
It's okay.
Raptus at 66.
Tyrants will be fine.
58 on Raptus. What's Bestia at?
53.
Alright, go ahead and push.
Death marks.
Raptus is pushed.
Bestia for last.
Tyrans is pushed. Calphayus is down. Or up. Whatever. Alright, Bestia. Alright, and that is first phase. It's really not that hard. Alright. So now the tank and the healer are going to run off and get the crystals. You do actually have to wait a hot second for the portals to spawn.
Bro!
Alright, and we are going to start on Styrak. The best place to drop ray buffs and adrenals is when they're stacked together.
First teleport.
After the first teleport. Thank you
that
very
was
much.
it.
So that was the first teleport. So we would, we're not going to do it. Yeah, we would do it now. This is a great time to do, you know, multi-dotting, all that good stuff. This is actually a relatively lax phase here in hard mode. This is a great time for healers to catch up. You know, if you've got anybody who's dead, good time for stealth res is after Styrak drops. Alright, so Styrak is down. We're all going to move away from the holocron and go towards the left of facing the door. We're going to move towards the left. So that way when she starts her clock phase at 20%, nobody gets caught unaware. There's clock phase. So there's the clock. Now I'm going to go ahead and head towards Raptus. So Raptus is going to be on the loose. And the rest of the group who are assigned to crystals, as you can see, are all doing their channels. I've got Raptus. The rest of the group is going to be focused on Bestia, burn Bestia, then Tyrans, and then it's just a repeat of phase 1.
I can't see. Is Ray on Tyrants?
Yes, Ray was on.
Okay. Death marks. Oh, that was a close one.
Yeah,
I'm sitting here spamming my cleanse on you.
I was doing the.
Alright, stop on Raptus. Raptus is at 22%.
Bestia 25. 22.
Tyrants at 19.
Calphayus 18.
We're ready for a push. Go ahead and push Raptus and Bestia then.
Calphayus 7.
Alright, they're going ahead and moving towards the middle. I think. Oh! No, I was too fast. My bad. Alright, so this is burn phase. We're going to start on Bestia. Bestia's the lowest. Bestia, Tyrans, Raptus, Calphayus. Thank you, Waffles. And that is Dread Council hard mode. Quick, somebody stuck.
Oh, I was tempted.
Alright, it's really not that hard. Once you kind of understand how the Dreadmasters work, how the dance works as a whole, Council is really actually probably one of the easiest, I would say, nightmare fights in the game. Alright, time for a nightmare run.
You mind if I kite Bestia in when we do this next?
Sure.
I'm gonna record it.
Thank you.
I understand the whole point is to learn